Welcome to Rowdy Rants. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Rowdy. My topic today is something I've spoken about before. We're going to go a little more in depth. It's concerning illegal immigration, immigration on the whole, and citizens. It's time to face some facts. When it comes to Dreamers and DACA, that's kind of like other benefits that you see in the government. Once a benefit is received, it's never taken back. DACA is not going to be overturned, and the Dreamers are never going to be overturned. Yet, the United States remains the only nation in the world without a strong government rule set for dealing with illegal immigration. We don't enforce the laws on the books. We don't protect our citizens. The reason we don't is we have cheap labor Democrats and Republicans in office that are there for big business to ensure their interests. Call it what you want. That's what it is. They're cheap labor Republicans, Democrats. They do not have the interests of U.S. citizens at heart. They never have. They're not there for the general population. It's hard to believe that it's actually coming down to this because it's becoming so obvious. The general population is starting to cite immigration as a priority in the midterm elections. With Trump, they're keeping scandals alive. They're throwing more and more scandals at him. Anything to freeze up his agenda, anything to interfere, I don't see it stopping anytime soon. They're going to do everything they can. President Trump needs to take up a new cry, and it needs to be a citizens first, citizen rights first cry. He needs to start helping people understand that if you're not supporting the U.S. citizens, if you're pro-illegal immigration, you're anti-citizen, because these illegal immigrants are coming into the country by the thousands, and they're depressing wages. They're cheap labor for companies. That's one of the reasons that, everybody wants to cry about the fact that the money's flowing upward into the top 1%, and they think it's horrible, although everybody'd like to be in that top 1%. And they won't do anything about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it, which is just more ridiculous than ever. What needs to happen is we need a Citizens Rights Act. There was a time and a place for civil rights in the 1960s. It's time again for a revolution of thought. And we need a government that holds the rights of the citizens first and foremost. And in this Citizens Rights Act, we need a amnesty prohibitive. It needs to be absolutely amnesty prohibitive. No amnesty shall ever be granted again to illegal aliens. As a matter of fact, citizenship should be forbidden ever for an illegal immigrant. No federal benefits, no federal rights, no voting in federal elections. If states want to have these illegal immigrants, then they should be able to naturalize as a state citizen and receive state benefits in that particular state where they hold a state ID card, and that state can grant them benefits that will replace the federal benefits they're denied for being here illegally. They should not receive WIC. They should not receive SNAP. They should not receive free school lunches, and they should not be compensated for attending a public school. That should fall on the state that is tolerating their presence in this country, which diminishes the futures of the citizens who were born here. And I mean this also for any illegal who marries a citizen. The citizen would retain his or her rights. However, this illegal would remain a non-citizen for life. That's the penalty for coming here illegally. And it needs to happen. We need to start protecting our citizens. We are forfeiting our citizens' futures in favor of cheap labor, and this cheap labor only aids in the flow of money upward to the wealthy. That's all it's doing. Cheap labor is not benefiting the economy in any way that benefits the average citizen. It's diminishing the job prospects of the average citizen. They love to cite how prices would go up for this or that without illegal aliens or undocumented immigrants, I don't care how you want to cite it, there to pick the strawberries. But the plain and simple facts are that if you had more U.S. citizens employed, despite the fact that they had a higher wage, if the prices went up, the higher wage will compensate for it. The markets tend to reach their own level. So this idea that we're going to destroy our economy by reducing the supply of cheap labor is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. We have to start protecting our citizens. Citizens, citizens, citizens. People who are already here. People who are depending on this nation to make good decisions for our future and the future of our children. And we're not taking care of business. We're not going to get rid of the Dreamers. We're not going to get rid of DACA. But what we can do is prevent them from becoming a competitor for the same benefits and the same future that we and our children have a right to. We have a legitimate right to that future. They do not. Yes, I understand it's unfortunate that you may have a child that was brought here by their parents. But that's not our fault. And to diminish our future in the name of somebody else, that's kind of like Speaker Ryan or whoever he is with his new bill where everybody gets a little bit of what they want, but the one thing you don't see is a decrease in immigration. Once again, that's your cheap labor Republican. The compromise is no compromise. The ones that lose are the U.S. citizens. You know, this whole idea, okay, we need a new movement. We need a Make America Great Again movement. Where'd the Tea Party get us? Did it get rid of Obamacare? No, it did not. We still have Obamacare. We don't have the mandate behind it anymore, but what can be taken away can be put back very easily. Next president just signs it right back into law. Nothing changes. Only gets worse. What has Obamacare actually achieved? It raised medical prices significantly. Where are we at now? Any better off than we were before? No. No. Do more people have insurance? Probably. Probably. What they did is exactly what Obama said was good about spreading the wealth around. He cashed that check. He spread the wealth around. So now we all get to share in that price. Did we have a choice in it? No, we did not. That was forced on us. Just like the immigration issue is being forced on us. That is why we need a Citizens' Rights Act. And this needs to happen now. It won't. It's not going to happen now. It's going to get worse. And people are going to get more and more miffed. And more politicians are going to keep talking bullshit. And people are going to start realizing that the crop of politicians we have, and probably the next crop, are going to be saying one thing and doing another. You have cheap labor politicians on the Democrat and the Republican side, and they're going to keep talking smack. They're going to keep trying to smooth things over, and they're going to keep that flow of cheap labor coming into the country. We have so much cheap labor coming into the country. Now it's ridiculous. We have the entire H-1 programs where you can bring in guest workers or workers of professional caliber where they're not even checking to see if there are U.S. citizens that would take those jobs. We have a visa lottery. A lottery? Really? A lottery? Can we have a citizen lottery, for $1 million or so? They have more benefits for immigrants coming to the country or that want to come to the country than they do for veterans or than they do for poor or for health care for the poor or for the homeless. They find every way possible to cater to cheap labor. And they'll continue to do so until it's forbidden in the Constitution or it's forbidden as a Rights Act, much like the civil rights. We need this citizens' rights. How to bring it about, I have no idea. Because it's a movement. It would have to be a huge movement. I do know that the current minorities in the country are being diminished because we have greater and greater numbers of immigrants coming in from Central and South America. I do know that as long as we have a growing illegal population, they're going to continue to compete first with those who are on the bottom of the scale for employment, the ones who are there fighting for those cheap jobs. So in particular, any minority should be concerned. This isn't a bright white, no so light problem as I've heard cited before. This is a problem especially for people whose earnings are on the lower end of the spectrum. It's your wages that aren't growing. It's you who are competing with these people for these jobs. It's me that's competing with these people for these jobs. And we're just a number. As far as these politicians in D.C. are concerned, we're just a number. So we need to figure this out. We need to move it forward. Make America great again sounds good. Citizen rights sounds a lot better. We need to stop with the ideas of the amnesty. That needs to end forever because it does not serve the best interests of our citizens. There's no reason to be giving amnesty over groups of people who came here illegally over the best interests of citizens that are already here. This does not help the citizens. How does this help me? How does putting 11 million, 12 million people into the workforce benefit me or my family? A lot of good it does making the prices cheaper when I have 2 kids living at home because they can't find a job adequate to start a family of their own. And this is repeated time and time again throughout the nation. It's not just the guy you see sitting in front of a camera. The talking heads, that's a business. Stop listening to them. Get on the internet and start doing some reading. Check things out. They're not going to spell things out for you. This is their bread and butter too. Start thinking for yourself. We got to find a way. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I've got to say. I'm not going to try and wring out the subject. As always, any feedback's welcome. I thank you very much for watching. I'm Rowdy. This is my rant, and I'm out.